So namaskara and good evening to one and all. Welcome to the fourth and the last panel of Bangalore Handloom Fest, as called as Day 1. Hope all of you did carry some great insights from previous panels. I'm sure this one and Day 2. This evening with me, I have four eminent speakers. One of them would be joining us shortly to discuss on the online marketplaces paradigm shift with pandemic with respect to the handloom sector. The COVID-19 pandemic pivoted the consumers to move into online marketing places to cater to their shopping needs across categories, which includes handloom brand, retailers, designers, and artisans also embarked their digital presence to suit their target market needs, thus tapping the opportunity to provide support to the marketplace model, which was shaping up well during the pre-pandemic as well. So to discuss this further, it's my honor and pleasure to welcome all the speakers who have taken time from the busy schedule and are here with us. So my first guest today evening is Mr. Siddharth Arya, fashion professional, 20 years work of experience in the Indian design fraternity, while working for Pure and bespoke brands such as Tarun Tahiliani, Lakme Rathod, and Bata Saab Bespoke. Because he has showcased his brand, the Case brand at Lakme Fashion Week for around 4 years, of which he entered in retail industry, heading giant brands such as Viva and House of Dongde, before setting foot into the ever-growing e-commerce space, Myntra. Today, he is the director of ethnic design at the House of Brands, Flipkart and Myntra, and manages design portfolios for around 8 ethnic brands altogether. He supports causes like ethical and responsible sourcing, women empowerment, and vocal for local through his brand portfolios. We welcome you, Mr. Siddharth.
Hi, Pratik.
It's
Thank you.
indeed a
Thank you for
pleasure
the
to welcome. Thank you. Thank you. It's indeed a pleasure to welcome Ms. Pankaja Sethi, a textile designer, artist, and researcher working with weavers and artisans of Odisha over 10 years. She studied Masters Textile Design in FT New Delhi and MA in Social Anthropology from School of Oriental and African Studies, University of London. She is a recipient of Ministry of Culture Fellowships 2018-20, Sahapedia UNESCO Fellowship 2017-18. She has many other reputed international and national accolades on her name. We welcome. She has specially showcased or exhibited Odisha weaves at Lakme Fashion Week 2018. We welcome you, ma'am, on the panel.
Yes, thank you. Honored to be part of the panel. Yes.
We also with us, we have Mr. Nitin Bhamnani, co-founder iTalkly.com, who calls himself as an accidental creative entrepreneur, as he ventured from an award-winning documentary filmmaker to becoming one of the co-founders of India's most loved online store, iTalkly.com, dealing with handicrafts, handmade textiles, and design products. He has an experience of more than 11 years in online digital space, working closely with groups and individuals involved in hand textile processes across India. Once again, a very warm welcome to all of you. As I said, Mr. Siva Devi Reddy would be joining us shortly. So since now we are acquainted, I just wanted to throw a question. The first question to the panel about the various business models which is followed by each of your brands. We have an understanding of marketplace model or market-led model through Myntra.com. So Mr. Siddharth, over to you.
Sure, Pratik. So marketplace for us is a new entrant, and the way we look at marketplace is to have a sort of intelligence building with the vendors whom we have closely. And we kind of work on building the aesthetic of the brand, the language of the brand with the vendors and the design team there. They closely work with us in dealing with different categories that can be scaled. And we almost behave like, enabler for them to make them, capable of doing what they need to do on their own. So that's literally what we look at, from a marketplace, the kind of vendorship that will be a perfect amalgamation with the aesthetic of the brand. So we've got different vendors from different sectors and different categories that work with us, like footwear, apparel, and a lot of others. So, I mean, each one has expertise. We look at that and then work closely with what we think we can build around our brands and shape them accordingly. I hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Siddharth. So from the typical marketplace, we move on to the inventory-led model, which of course is a day of I2P. I would like to hear from Mr. Nitin some insights on the inventory-led model.
Hi everyone. Yeah, we are mostly on inventory based model, as Pratik has already said, and we have been doing this since inception. And we realized that if we are really interested into doing the handicrafts, then the inventory model would work best, because the artisan is very incapable of holding the inventory for artisanal product. So there is so much variation into the production, and to streamline, standardize the whole system, we have to procure the inventory, and then we have to go ahead and turn it into an e-commerce product. So that's how it started, and we have been doing it, I mean, since around 10 years now, and I mean, going is good.
About the different marketplaces as well as the inventory-led model. So from the marketplace, let's move into an independent seller. So coming to Ms. Pankaja, we focuses predominantly on the Odisha Banda handloom. How that you think can create a niche or a headway towards the cluster? So over to you, Ms. Pankaja.
So we are a design label and we work with communities directly. So weavers and artisans, different crafts, just not ikat, not banga, many other crafts. So we basically what we create, we use the social media, the digital platform to voice, to give message of our textile, to, talk about the techniques, talk about the trails, the villages. So through the stories we tell our textiles, and because we create our own designs and every textile is made very, very unique, we make sure that we provide that information, and our clients are basically, they are basically fixed to us. So going to villages, giving design, preparing and marketing. We also tie up with other online stores in Chennai, Jaipur, and Avisha, Parisera, and they sell our products. But yes, the entire process is basically to showcase our weavers' work directly on the online platform, Instagram, Facebook, and obviously the other web stores, e-commerce stores. So it has been very, very fruitful journey with us, because this is the only way we can reach the local, reach anybody, anywhere, just through the digital media.
Thank you, Ms. Sethi. So do you also tie up? Yeah. So do you also tie up with other marketplaces like, Myntra, like etc., etc., in order to sell your saris or yourself?
Yes, in the past we have worked with Itokri. We have currently we are and also some other e-commerce. We collaborate with them and we work with them. Yes, we tie up with them. It works with us because we are creators. So somebody who holds a better marketplace, we tie up with them so that our products are able to reach wider audience.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, yes. Yeah. I can hear you. Yes.
So yeah, so that was a great insight upon how exactly the working models of each of you differs to brand, and how exactly you collaborate in that space. So, but with the onset of pandemic, we all know that the shopping dynamics have shifted to the digital space. Now, how this change impacted towards the handloom purchase and the challenges involved in the models, which is both pre-pandemic and in the ongoing current scenario. So any thoughts from all the members are welcome. So I would start with Ms. Pankaja. How do you think it has shifted the entire dynamics of consumers?
Obviously, because the pandemic was basically it was the worst natural disaster, and nobody had seen, even the senior most weavers also, they haven't seen such a, disaster like this. But still, in this situation, when handloom textile lovers, they came together and used the social media platform, wearing it and talking it every day that I am wearing handloom. Let's stand together with the handloom. Like, we also created a lot of campaign to around, I think, to support, we managed to support around 2,000 weavers in Orissa through ration and cash relief. Apart from that, we also created campaign, support, weaver family by purchasing, because the loom, the marketplace is the only source of income for weavers. If that stopped, obviously the livelihood, say if I talk about 2 lakh weavers or weavers, that's, and we need to take an action. So we took the initiative just through social media and created the hashtag each one support one weaver, and that created basically a lot of, a lot of people appreciated it, and a lot of people came together to create the awareness. Apart from our, I also saw a lot of platform, the sari groups and the people wearing sari and, standing as weavers in this crisis. So I thought it was a very great stand. And currently and also in the future, just not women, men are also responsible. It shouldn't be gender basis. Everybody should be, in support of handloom, wearing, handloom and supporting the weavers.
If you want to add something to it, and then we come to Mr. Siddharth.
Yeah, it was initially it was very tough, but what happened in the first phase, we had two phases of two rounds of this corona thing, and the first round was mostly people were left with so much inventory. All the artisans, the handloom weavers, craft people, they were the all the orders which were coming from export, they were all cancelled. Lot of export and lot of Indian brands also, the physical stores, Fab India, like big brands, they cancelled. A lot of cancellation happened with the artisans. So they were left with too much inventory across the categories. So the first challenge for the first phase was to to get rid of that inventory, to kind of sell that inventory. So there were a lot of initiatives around that time to push that inventory to the customer and find new customers. And customers were also, as the stores were off and there was some requirement, a lot of there were new customers which were introduced to the online shopping around those times, and that number like kept on increasing steadily. Initially, it was big, and slowly, it grew really well over the past 2 years. So, and a lot of producers also, when there were no avenues to sell on the physical market, there were no exhibitions happening. So, a lot of them went themselves into the online space and opened their Facebook pages, started selling through Instagram channels. There were a lot of new e-commerce portals which came into place, standalone curated stores, all kind of things came into place. So in a way, when I see it, like after 2 years now, post COVID, around 2 years, so I think space has grown, the online space has grown, then there's so much confidence in the artisan to sell the product online. There's too much there's a lot of literacy within the artisan community, the weaver community, that that a handloom handmade product can be sold online, and there's a lot of buzz into the online space. The space has grown wider due to COVID. That's what I feel. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. So, Myntra was reported that one of the biggest retailers during the pandemic era. So, any insights on that, Mr. Siddharth?
Pratik. It's no surprise that the safest way to shop during this time is the online way, and e-commerce definitely helped bring closer, the entire artisan community, and make them realize that the need for digitization is really crucial and imminent. It's going to definitely take over, a lot of other models are working. And we've seen that rise and interest within the community. We've got people who've reached out to us, whether it's, on our individual Facebook pages or directly through other contacts. But we've got a huge, overwhelming response from artisans all over the country who reached out to us to kind of be a part of. We've kind of been able to employ a lot more artisans during this time. And we've actually tied up with a couple of NGOs during this period, which was very difficult. And we can proudly say that we've helped around 10K artisans to have livelihood, during this pandemic period. We were one of those offline vendors who've not gone ahead and canceled orders despite, delays that were definitely foreseen. And we've kept, in fact, slight, ways. We've opened channels of maybe helping them out by giving them certain perks of and advantages of payments, and hurrying up certain issue-related payments for them so that they can keep work going. And this has really helped us in creating, a sort of support from the artisans also towards Myntra, towards the brand Tavi that deals with the crafts and artisans directly. So yes, we've seen a very huge rise in the way the approaching art, handloom at this point. It's become so easy now to sit at home and order a Bhujori shawl, which otherwise you would have had to travel to Kutch and look at different exhibitions before you get it. So it's now becoming apparent that consumers have found that ease sitting at home to be able to shop a wide range of variety through these websites which are offering crafts. So it's been a win-win situation for both, I think, for the consumer, for the retailers, and the e-com websites which are also selling this, as well as the artisans who now have found another outlet and another source or a point of sale, which is huge when it comes to how many footfalls would you get at an exhibition versus the large number of footfalls you get over the weekend on a platform like Myntra, which is huge. So, I mean, it's easy for them to actually expand their base, expand their production, and reach, all over the country with ease. So it definitely has given them, the opportunity to open up to newer things, to digitization, and to end up becoming more out there and available to the consumer.
So, yeah, of course, it has helped in the entire digitalization of spaces, and of course, the artisan communities are helped in general. So, coming back to the question which we were discussing the other day, Mr. Siddharth, about how the different models exist within Myntra itself when it comes to handloom, as Tavi as a brand. What are the other brands doing? So, if you can just take us through that particular models which exist within Myntra as a marketplace, just to understand it much better, or let the audiences understand it much better. Like, what are the challenges which you face as a director who handles 9 different verticals, and what are the nuances which you face there?
Well, of course, sure, Pratik. So, come to the first question, we've got, like I said, the marketplace model in Myntra is very different from maybe how others approach it. For like enablers, like I said, we pull on vendors who are interested in being a part of our legacy and who want to join hands with us. We allow, a small phasing period where we kind of learn from their expertise, kind of take them into, our hands, and handhold them into creating products which are very particularly suitable and share the same aesthetic and the brand DNA. So that's just one look and one part of the same story. And coming to the challenges that we face, I mean, to be honest, handloom is not really easy to scale. And the issues that I think all my friends here are aware of, who are also working in the same sector, are varied and extremely challenging, right? Like for a brand like Myntra, the quality control is extremely stringent and strict. So, I mean, we would have normal rejects even in a screen print or a rotary print. So when it comes to a hand block print, the challenges are multiplied because of the addition of a human element in the process. So much more that comes to the fore, which used to get escaped, and unnoticed. So like a small thread hanging out in a weave, which actually may be just a slip, and is actually considered pretty okay when you think about crafts and handloom weaves. It used to get rejected for all these kind of small little pieces. And it took us very long to actually create that kind of awareness and to reach out to our quality control and make them understand that Ajrak has its own beauty, for example, and Kalamkari has its own form, its own differences and nuances. And all these little things that you're seeing are not really rejects, or they don't. For us, being people who are steeped in craft, we in fact applaud that and enjoy that little differentiation that you see from piece to piece, because there's a hand and a human element that is behind each of these processes. So I think the biggest challenge for us was trying to understand how we can get the quality control to be a little more towards this same approach, which otherwise is so stringent, and to allow the weaver also to understand. We also had to go back and educate them, right? Because at the end of the day, if there were rejects, it was literally them who was going to have to account for those redos. And that is where we had to also lift them up, make them that the slightest coloration of discoloration or a change in color will also amount to so many issues. So it's been a bilateral exchange of ideas between the vendors, between the artisans, and between us, and all of us together have been able to kind of pull the product up to a level where today we have one of the least amount of returns in terms of quality issues, and the least amount of rejects also. So it's been a challenge, and it did have its own it was its own, it's played out its own phase. But today we're at a position where we can say in a brand like Tavi, for example, the rejects are much lesser. The reductions have reduced to a very easy, something that we can live with on both sides.
Thank you so much, Mr. Siddharth. This was
Sure.
such a great insight. Mr. Nitin, any challenges which you face in terms of product versus quality, and how exactly the entire handloom scenario weaves around it? Can you hear me?
In general, you want to ask? I mean,
In generally, or if there is some specific cases which you want to discuss with the panel and give some insights to the audience, that would be great.
no,
In terms of quality, challenges, etc.
yeah, very much agree with the Siddharth, and when we talk about handloom and scaling it up and dealing with the artisan and kind of standardizing the product, doing the quality check, that has been, I mean, just things grows tenfold. But see, we realized this in a very initial phase of iTokri that said this challenge is going to be there, because we want to deal with handmade process. So we kind of developed the whole system, a mechanism where e-commerce model, I would say, where which is enabled to deal with handicrafts and handmade textiles. Because see, we are doing bags, we are doing jewelry and all kinds of home decor stuff, fabrics, and most of the times the prints don't get replicated. We order say around, say, 500 sarees, we may get not more than, say, 200 or 300 SKUs in those 500 sarees, and they are many of them are not reproducible. When you ask artisan to make the exactly same piece, I mean, it's really impossible to get the exact same piece. There would be some variation. So for an e-commerce portal to list that kind of a product portfolio, it has been really difficult. And Siddharth is already selling this. We kind of specialize the whole portal to deal with that kind of portfolio. So when we get, say, 200 different sarees, all differently photographed, ready for photograph, so we photograph them. We developed this whole mechanism to reduce the cost of and listing, and there's a very different kind of a system we follow than other marketplaces. So that's to kind of deal with the handmade stuff. Kind of a unique, and the challenge is already I mean, is there to for handloom online and put for an online customer. It has been difficult, but there are ways to it, and and it keeps on growing and keeps on evolving. The systems keeps on evolving, but it's still challenging. That's why the scale is really difficult. I mean, to get the volume, the kind of volume which a standardized product could get, it's really difficult to do that.
Yeah. So talking of volume, so we have Ms. Pankaja who handles one cluster, but in a very deeper assortment. So any insights on that, ma'am? Is controlling the quality a little easier for you when it comes for product selection as well as quality control? Or it is as...
Yeah, please go on, complete your question. Yes.
Yeah, yes. So since you handle Odisha and Odisha weaves, does quality control play a major role in the selection of the products, or do you think that handling that particular weave, while you're handling that particular handloom sector, you are actually monitoring it very closely?
Yes, that's a very important area where we look into, just not as a designer or a researcher. So basically, when you go into the village, you also see the problems related to each craft. So the problems of color bleeding, the color, also the problems of the fabric which are not woven properly. Like what I mean is, it will have very loose weaving. So you will see the sari doesn't fall properly. The stole doesn't, fall. The density of the threads is very less, and they don't maintain the EPI PPI, that's ends per inch and fixed per square inch. So these are many other problems what we identified. And also when in the I'm talking about one cluster like Nuapatna and all, they will fix say around 60 or 70. So basically the scope for experimentation becomes very less, because they fix such a lengthy work. So it will take around 6 or 7 months something, you wait, and then you basically, if you tell them, okay, I have a design, they will say, okay, you have to wait for some time, and that can go on for many months. We started working with master weavers, and we were very specific, talking about we need to maintain our threads per square inch, because the density of the threads is very important in order to improve the quality, which most of the people do not understand. And marketplaces, the online marketplaces also do not understand the problem. But because we work from the scratch, from every thread, so we look into this thing. So my suggestion for designers and students who are also listening to us, maintain the quality. So we work on that, and obviously the colors, we do natural dyes, and we also use industrial dyes, but obviously the fastness. And then coming to the design, obviously we give contemporary design. And in terms of creating design, our stress is, again, it is not a top-down situation, because as a designer, I can tell a weaver, okay, you create this, but we always try to create a dialogue where my weaver and we both learn in the process, and it is not a one-way process. So if my weaver learns with me and I learn with my weaver, then you bridge, between communities, you create a collaboration, rather than a top-down situation which exists in many other places. So we do that, and we also acknowledge our weavers. Like one of our master weavers was you in the afternoon session. So, and we also help them. So our basically stress is lot on fabric, quality, design, and also the basically how you finish the garment. So when like one of our weaver, I will always tell, can you create me better finishes, how you feel. So he will always tell me, can you close your eyes and touch and tell me, ma'am, which one is better. So we will work on it. And sometimes also introducing good materials, linen yarn, sometimes twisted silk and expensive silk. So that's why we create basically obviously niche products for the niche market. And market is very competitive, so we have to work with certain marketplaces only where they show the design and our niche products. This is where basically we have been working hard, and I think it is a struggle, and it's a struggle for everybody to compete with handmade and machine made. But yes, it will go on like that. Yes.
Thank you, Pankaja ma'am, for such wonderful insights. I think Shiva sir is there with us. Good evening, Shiva sir. We were all waiting.
Good evening, everyone.
Good
Yeah,
evening. Good evening. Yeah. So just a brief introduction. I will wholeheartedly, Mr. Can you hear me? Yeah. Yeah.
we can hear you.
Yes. Thank you. My connection gets off a bit in between. So I would like to welcome Mr. Shiva Devi Reddy, founder of Goku.com, India's first global marketplace for weavers and artisans. 20 years of global technology and leadership experience, starting his career in the Bay Area. In the previous experience, he was the director of Innovation Center for SAP with Accenture in India and played key management technology leadership roles for multiple clients. Fellow of Corporate Leaders Program at the Arizona State University with Master Industrial Management Systems Engineering. And as a founder of Goku, he also received the Government of India's first national for handloom for e-commerce in 2016. He was a part of the World Economic Forum Roundtable at Textiles India and United Nations ESCAP Roundtable Conference on Commerce for Sustainable Development in Bangkok. He was recognized as champion of change by the Honorable PM of India and NITI Aayog in 2017. He is a member of United Nations Escape Digital Economic Task Force. Welcome, sir. Thank you so much for making time for us. So since the other panel members have already spoken about their marketplace model, we like to hear from you about what Goku does and how different is Goku from other marketplaces. So over to you, sir.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Prateek. And I hope I'm audible. I mean, the network has been a little bad this evening. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible. You're audible. So just a brief round of introduction. Mr. Siddharth Arya is there from Intra, Mr. Nitin from iTalk3, and Ms. Pankaja Sethi from Label Pankaja Sethi.
Yeah. And Pankaja, I've met many times, so good friends. And Siddharth, I think I must have interacted with you as well in the past. So once again, thanks. Thanks to you, Prateek, and NIFT for giving us this opportunity to be part of this panel discussion. So let me just tell you what GoCop is first, right, and how it started, and then I can explain the model and how we are looking at this sector and how we are trying to solve the problems of this sector. So after almost a decade in corporate, 12 years in corporate, started my career in the Bay Area. I wanted to basically use technology to create social impact. That was my goal. How can we use technology to drive some social impact? And my first job was to build a marketplace where we conducting the semiconductor manufacturing companies in China and Taiwan with OEMs in US. This was way back in 2000. So it was a marketplace, private marketplace, connecting manufacturers in Taiwan with OEMs, original equipment manufacturers in US. So when I wanted to look at craft sector, and a craft sector has been something very close to my heart, because where I come from, we find a lot of weavers in my grandparents' village and nearby. These are very densely populated cluster where almost every village has weavers. And so handloom and both agriculture is something that we have grown up. We have seen it while we were growing up. And looking at handloom as an industry, what we felt the biggest challenge was access to market. While we have thousands of years of cultural traditions, a very unparalleled legacy in handwoven textiles, handcrafted textiles, as compared to anywhere else in the world, the big seemed to be access to market. And the idea of GoCop was very simple, कि कैसे हम एक marketplace बनाएं, एक online marketplace जहाँ पे बुनकर खुद अपने product online लेके आए, and he should be able to sell the product directly to customer. So एक online marketplace where weaver can himself come online, put online his products, and should be able to directly sell the products to customers as well as buyers through the platform. So it was a very simple, complex concept, marketplace for weavers and artisans. But when we got into the sector, as I was just on another panel, Jaya ji ke saath, also secretary, just discussing the same thing, that every cluster in India is so complex, so different, कि एक जगह का जो problem है वो दूसरे जगह पे same problem नहीं है. And we are talking about India has probably at least over 1,000 clusters, right? And over 3,000 craft traditions. So when we got into this, when we started doing Go, launched our initiative in 2012. First 2 years we just spent in understanding the clusters and understanding the challenges in these clusters. And it was very challenging to talk about marketplace and e-commerce to someone who has never seen a computer before. And we are not talking about buying and selling, right? Our whole model is that we want them to come online, so we want to train them. तो उनको ई-कॉमर्स के बारे में कन्विंस करना, बहुत लोगों के पास बैंक अकाउंट भी नहीं थे, तो उनको बैंक अकाउंट सेटअप करवाना, देन गेटिंग देम ऑनलाइन, जिन्होंने कभी कंप्यूटर देखा ही ना हो, तो गेटिंग देम ऑनलाइन, एंड telling them how e-commerce works, how payment will come on. The cooperative or the weaver is, you give me the money and you take the product, right? That is what I'm used to. But we are saying, don't worry about that. Somebody's going to buy it online, and the money is going to come into your bank account in 3 days. Our SLA was T+3 at that time. So transaction के बाद 3 दिन में पैसे आपके बैंक अकाउंट में आ जाए. तो काफी मुश्किल था ये काम, and it was very challenging to convince them. And this is before the revolution that Myntra and Amazon brought into this country, right? So this is 2012, 2013, very early days for e-commerce. So that's the genesis of GoCop. That's where we started. But things started changing in 2014. जैसे 2014 में हमने देखा कि बहुत सारा focus आ गया था digital enablement पे. So a lot of weavers started understanding e-commerce, and I must also thank the Ministry of Textiles to put a lot of focus on e-commerce for artisans. Directly बुनकर and हस्तकलाकारों के लिए एक माध्यम होना चाहिए sales के लिए. तो उसमें हमारा, I mean, that's when we started actually realizing the potential of our marketplace. And today we work with over 70 craft clusters across 22 states in India. And we connect them with consumers as well as buyers, not only US being our biggest market, 27% of हमारा sale international होता है. But US के अलावा, we have most of the English speaking countries are good markets for us. And everything happens directly from the weaver to the customer. So we have where we can train a weaver in remote parts of the country. We can provide them tools and guidance to come online. And once they come online, we are able to successfully market their products. And once we get orders, the weaver is directly then shipping the product from his place. So he's still keeping ke paas hai. And all this is done with I must say, the kind of precision that Myntra works with, or the kind of customer service iTokri gives, right? We are able to catch up to that standards that Nitin has set, and Myntra has set in this sector. I think so. Our order fulfillment is 99% today. Our returns are less than 3%. तो हैंडलूम में जब इतने वेरिएंट्स होते हैं, इतना जो प्रोडक्ट का फोटो होता है, जैसे मैं अभी हैंडलूम शर्ट पहना, मैंने पता नहीं ये ब्लैक दिख रहा है कि आपको डार्क ब्लू दिख रहा है, पता नहीं फोटो पे कुछ और भी दिख सकता है, डिपेंडिंग ऑन द मॉनिटर. बट वी आर एबल टू गेट दैट काइंड ऑफ descriptions, the pictures, all this in a very low cost model without using any fancy models. And we don't have money to spend 800 rupees on a product picture. So in a very low cost model, we are able to do this, and we are able to manage this global commerce of craft through GoCop.com with doing better than industry average, especially in returns, Average bill value is over 6,000 for domestic. Average bill value is about 14,000 for international. Our repeat customer is over 50%. Yeah, I think that's the kind of model we have built over the last 7-8 years.
So much, Shiva sir. So just before you joined, all the three panel members were speaking about quality, the maintenance of quality in their products. So any quick insight, and then I move to the paradoxes of quality versus price, because that's very important when we look into an e-commerce model, specifically when we are speaking about handlooms as a sector. Quality always becomes one of the trade-offs. So we'll start with you, quality and price, and how do you manage it? And then we move around the product. So
yeah. So so in our model, the seller is the artisan, right? उन्हीं का नाम पे product बिक रहा है. So the Ansari ji जो बनारस से हैं, उन्हीं so he's the seller, right? So right from the beginning, we make it clear that it's important for them to maintain the required quality standards. And before onboarding any seller, because quality is also a vast subject, right? You know, something which looks differently on a monitor, right? The color looks different. As a bad quality, right? Because what product you get could be like light pink, but it could look dark pink in the monitor. So there could be variances like that, which can be construed as bad quality. But most important thing for us is that the weaver himself has to take responsibility for the quality of products they are selling. So before we artisan partner, we actually have a physical visit. We look at their facilities. We look at the production, how they are doing the production. We look at the products that they are giving us. So the merchandising होती है, तो हर product की जांच होती है. तो उसके बाद हम लोग उसमें product को कैसे tag करना है, कैसे उसको you know कैसे जो call outs जो Pankaja ji and all the textile. I mean, I learned this after coming into the sector, but we have something called as a call out, right? What is acceptable and what is not acceptable. तो इस तरह से स्टैंडर्ड्स हम उनको समझाते हैं, उसके बाद हम उनके मर्चेंडाइज करते हैं, उसके बाद हम उसको प्रोडक्ट को ऑनलाइन लेके आते हैं. बट ऑनलाइन लेके आने के बाद भी कभी कभी ऐसा भी हो सकता है कि जो प्रोडक्ट में कुछ वीविंग डिफेक्ट हो सकता है, जैसे ब्रोकन हैंड्स है, ब्रोकन पिक्स हैं, एक दो हो सकते हैं कहीं पे. तो कस्टमर को भी हमें ये बताना पड़ता है कि ये सम ऑफ दीज थिंग्स आर वेरी इनहेरेंट इन हैंडलूम. ऐसा नहीं हो सकता है कि यू नो एवरीथिंग इज परफेक्ट. दिस इज नॉट मशीन मेड, राइट? यू कांट एक्सपेक्ट you know everything to be perfect. Then why are you buying handloom in the first place, right? The product itself has a certain inherent characteristics, and that's what makes it more beautiful according to us. So we also work on educating to the customers and the consumers that there will be some minor variance in product as compared to what you see online, and some of these things are very inherent in the handloom production. So it is both sides. We have to educate the customers on what is acceptable in terms of quality, and also the producers on what is acceptable in terms of quality from their side.
okay, thank you very much. So we'll from challenges to trade-offs. So let's start with the trade-off thing. First trade-off which we discuss for the evening is quality and price. So I would like Mr. Nitin to talk about how do they maintain the pricing while maintaining the quality of the products. Sir, you are on mute.
Sorry. See, there are both kind of customers for all kind of prices. We have always believed this. I mean, the thing is not pricing and the quality. The thing is to maintain the transparency of the product. What quality you are offering at what price. It's not about प्राइस बढ़ेगा तो फिर क्वालिटी बढ़ेगा, और प्राइस घटेगा तो क्वालिटी घटेगा. वो तो ऑब्वियसली घटेगा. अगर जो चीज जिस रेट में अवेलेबल है वो यू हैव टू एक्सेप्ट दैट, बिकॉज इफ यू आर गोइंग टू बार्गेन विद द आर्टिजन कि नहीं आप तो और कम करो, तो डेफिनेटली दे आर गोइंग टू रिड्यूस द क्वालिटी ऑफ द प्रोडक्ट, और देयर आई मीन it is going to hurt the whole thing, because inflation, the way inflation works is always upward, it never goes downwards. But you are always going into the market taking the same amount of money and looking for same product. So the producer has to get down to get the pricing down, the quality will suffer, and it will go down. The thing is not, the thing is that the bigger challenge is to maintain the transparency of the product, which is this is the real thing. I mean, whatever you are selling, I mean, the customer has to know what quality they are buying for what kind of price they are paying. So there is a high-end customer who's looking for the quality of the product, and they do not look for the price of the product. And there is a price conscious customer who wants a little, I mean, who can manage a little mixed with the quality, but wants the product to fit into that quality, fit into that, I mean, the price. So the bigger challenge in my opinion, is to maintain the transparency quality in front of the customer, and let the customer decide what they want to buy at what price. So that's how we deal with it. So we deal with all kind of product qualities, all kind of craft producers, all kind of craft, I mean, the level of handmade in the product. We product, I mean, from 1 to 10 internally, that I mean, how pure this product is. I mean, there may be sometime the product is the weaving is, it's a power loom product, but it is printed with hand. Sometimes it's I mean, sometimes you do screen printing with a handloom product. So the hand process is involved into the whole production, that decides the pricing, and that should come out to the end user, to the customer. That has been the challenging aspect, in my opinion. So price has to, the more you go towards the purity and the quality of the fineness of the product, the price has to go up. There's no other way around.
Thank you, Mr. Nitin. So coming back to Pankaj, she answered partly for this question, but again, the price aspect, ma'am. So what is your take on it, quality and price? Because you dealing with one particular cluster, or probably the state clusters, and how do you maintain the quality and the price balance?
Well, I agree with what Nitin had shared. I think that's a very important point which has taken. And because we shouldn't basically fear the prices, because hand and machine, they both are different things. And what you create by hand, you can never achieve that by machine. And what you create by machine, you don't have to compete with hand. So basically, we have to basically make that point very, very clear. People who are looking for cheaper products, but great quality, that is completely impossible, because we create our own products. We know it is going to be expensive, because we pay a good honorarium to our weavers. We also basically maintain the high standards of the material what we use, from the threads and also the quality and the technical. We also improve the technical aspect, many other things. So we justify that to the customer. But yes, like some e-commerce store, you will see kalamkari for a very cheap price. You will see ikat for a very, very, so education has to be, made. I think customer has to also know, if I'm getting ikat, say for 150 or 200 rupees or something, approximate, that means it's a power loom. So obviously, it cannot be available, say, below 500 or 600 rupees per meter. So there are, question has to come out. I think that needs a lot of requirements. So I think this awareness has to basically spread everywhere. If you're getting a kantha for just, store for 1,000 rupees, think about it. Obviously the 30%, you can think of the e-commerce store, but rest of the 70%, if you break that, what is the amount the artisan getting? Is he able to have a dignified living? Is he struggling? Or it is a labor injustice, or, it is also about labor rights. So one has to also think, how the product was made. Was he from the price? And you should also think about the artisan. Price competition will be there, but yes, people who want to buy expensive products, they will buy it. They know the feel of it, and they will understand from the story and also from the products what you're trying to deliver. But then there are, also one should, when you get a price, kalamkari in a digital way, in a screen printing. So obviously the price reduces. So a question, I think as a customer, I should also question, how come a kalamkari is so cheap? So something must have gone wrong. Is this e-commerce store selling the right stuff to me? So these are the questions, we must ask as a customer, as an individual, as a citizen. And even if I'm getting a very good product at a very cheaper price, that question also has to arise. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pankaj. So we go to Mr. Siddharth.
Right,
Okay.
Prateek.
Yeah.
I mean, Nitin mentioned, I think that it all depends on striking the balance between, what you really need to do for your business numbers to be achieved in terms of, meeting price points that are actually required to be catering to, a larger segment of your consumer groups, and deciding how you, like Nitin mentioned, there'll have to be certain balances you make in the process. For example, taking like a power loom fabric, but then the process on top could be entirely hand, so that you can somehow justify the use of the artisan. You still employ the artisan, because in today's world it's so challenging and so competitive. Decide where you stand in the ladder, right? Because not everybody has the capacity to work like a boutique or a couturier, right? Wherein you can afford to have gorgeously entirely hand woven or hand printed or hand painted textiles. I mean, it's not something that there are different pillars to the same umbrella. I think that's where when you talk about mass, you have to figure out the way or the challenge and try to bring about something that is still very lucrative for the artisan. And I think with what we're doing at Tavi, it's very interesting to see how very quickly, within like 3 seasons or 4, we've seen our artisans come up from where they were when they had initially, and speak so proudly that they put banners of our companies without us asking them right outside, by saying, y'all have really given us the Philippe we were looking for in life. Thank you for being, supporting us through thick and thin. And it goes a very long way in showing that, unless you contemporize craft, somehow, these could be lost. You have to also find a balance in not very rigid, because even the artisans have had to change that, right? Somewhere. They've let go of those inhibitions they had earlier. When you would go some years back to these artisans, they would be unwilling to change a single way they used to do their own craft. But today, things have changed. Kind of aware with contemporarization, there are certain benefits that come into the craft. And I think these are the certain challenges which we all face when we talk about, the PL front. I mean, how do you bring profit to your organization? You have to start defining what your business could do. Of course, like Pankaj mentioned, you have to take into account the artisan's interests. You also have to be true to craft. And as a connoisseur of craft, you also know, I mean, deep down inside, none of us would see the right thing. And it goes back to how you, what business practices. A balance between quality has never been very easy, right? It's a very sensitive topic. And each business has its own struggles and its own challenges. But I think the best way would be to kind of look for a new avenue and try to find a new solution, rather than trying to just listen to what was happening up till now and just continue. So I think we all have to be a little open to finding our own way of striking a balance. I think Nitin shared some very smart ideas, and everybody here, all the young people who are listening in, should also realize that, as you go ahead into the industry, you're going to have multiple challenges. It's never going to be that easy to just start working. And even if you want to really do the best for the craftsman and the artisan, then you'll have the question of scaling up. How do you bring in, say, suppose you have an order of 1,000 pieces. Will you be able to give 1,000 pieces completely done by hand within the timeline? Even that physical aspect of, completing orders in time become another challenge. At that time, you have to bring in some kind of smart solutions to be able to quicken the process, to be able to do justice to both, to your business, to the numbers, to the consumer, as well as the demands that are in the, in the market today. So keeping up with the demands is never easy. And like I said, have to strike a balance, Pratik.
Yeah, but in the transparent wanted to, which I've that the whole thing. I mean, whatever the producer, the marketer, the whole thing is. I mean, you imply into your production that has to go through to the customer, that
Correct.
what they are buying at that kind of a price.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that is the similar. I mean, the challenge of transparency is as much मतलब उतना ही वजन है उसके अंदर जितना ये है कि ये क्या प्राइस पे क्या आप क्वालिटी सप्लाई करेंगे, वो जाना भी उतना ही जरूरी है. कस्टमर को पता होना चाहिए कि वो क्या खरीद रहे हैं.
Agreed.
Yeah, maybe just a few points on this. I think at least, from someone who's worked with these cooperatives for some time now, I think over the last 10 years, it's almost been 10 years now. What we found is in our own journey that quality in some cases has been very much ingrained in the DNA of certain organizations. And as I said earlier, also quality is a little subjective, but like for example, we have recently, after the first lockdown in the month of March, we had done 4 workshops in 4 clusters across 4 states. One of them is Polavaram. It's a small village in near Machilipatnam. So the cooperative society was formed in 1947, one of the oldest cooperatives in that region. And it's an ideological, it's a body, it's like a temple, right? I mean, you go there, people have given their life, just to run the cooperative. They have put their heart and soul, their blood and sweat in building this organization. And it's a huge, which has supported, thousands of weavers in that region. Now, every sari of that cooperative is a hallmark in quality. You will not find any issue in quality in that product. इतना perfect weaving है, handloom weaving है, एक भी product आपको नहीं दिखेगा. You can't even doubt that this is not handloom, right? 100% handloom. And the yarn they have been sourcing, they have been focusing on the quality of the yarn, the dyeing which happens. So they have such set processes that the quality of this product really stands out. Now the problem there is that the market of this product is very limited to the nearby regions. Some people from Tamil Nadu come and buy the product. So there's a lot of possibility in terms of design intervention. But we have seen such similar examples, right? Dubbaka in Telangana, right? They make only bath towels. The president of that society has taken so much care in sourcing yarn, the way dyeing happens, the way weaving happens. Most of the weavers are 60 plus, but the quality of the product is really, really good. You will not find flaws in the product, in the towels that are produced by Dubbaka. Gandhigram in Tamil Nadu, right? It's again, the product price is very reasonable. I'm talking about a handloom sari at the price of 1200 rupees. In fact, less than 1200 rupees, right? And of impeccable quality, very good weave that we have seen, very good quality yarn and dyes being used. So I think it depends on the organization, the way it is set up, right? Unfortunately, what happens is a lot of people don't pay attention to this. कोई डाई मिल गया, कहीं पे डाइंग करा लिया, yarn something we are getting locally period of time, and the organizations that we work with or the master weavers that we work with have to have a very strong eye towards quality. Otherwise, it's not. And it doesn't have to come at a premium, according to me, right? This is something that we have seen. Need not necessarily be called luxury, right? Just because it's a high quality product, it is going to be luxury. I mean, at least in our experience, this has not been the case.
Yeah, thank you very much for answering. So from quality, and so we are all talking about the consumer's point of view or the customer's point of view. So I remember Shiva sir, one of the sessions which you took for NIFT, you were talking about how exactly there was one Banarsi sari which was taken by somebody in Kottayam. In looking at the price. So any such incidents, let's on a lighter note, any such incidents where you see consumers looking into handloom products, and how do they think, and what are the motivations of consumers to buy handloom online? So we'll start with you and then we follow the order. So
yeah, sure. I think I'm sure Nitin will have more interesting stories, but so we have this, it's some very expensive Baluchari saris, right, from West Bengal. And the most expensive sari we sold is for 1,47,000 rupees, made by a group in West Bengal. And this was bought by a customer in Canada. And I still can't believe, right? I'm finding it difficult some myself being an e-commerce entrepreneur, buying something which is above 5,000 makes it very difficult without seeing the product. But I think, yeah, that's what is happening right now, right? There is a lot of trust now, especially when people know about the organization, right? कि ऐसा एक cooperative है जो 1947 से काम कर रहा है. It's a according to me it's a landmark in itself कि ऐसे organizations अभी भी जिंदा है इस देश में जो हैंडलूम को अभी तक जिंदा रख रहे हैं, right? So ऐसे organizations में, you know, the kind of trust and, you know, the kind of belief that consumers are having is actually quite encouraging. Even master artisans, जैसे वांजरे रमेश जी है कर्नाटका से, उनके प्रोडक्ट को कोई सोचता भी नहीं है कि उनको पता है कि इसका क्वालिटी अच्छा होगा, जेन्युइन प्रोडक्ट है, you can just buy. He is a national awardee. So that is I think how the consumers are now starting to trust not only handloom products, handcrafted products, but also trusting to buy online very expensive products.
Yeah. So anybody wants to add to any consumer insight or any funny consumer insight which you think into? I won't say funny, but any insight which has caught your eye. Mr. Nitin, anything?
नहीं, ऐसे तो कस्टमर के लिए कस्टमर ऑनलाइन कस्टमर there are all kinds of online customers, you know, and I mean the way they look at the product on your portal. I mean it like Shiva said, I mean it really becomes sometimes difficult कि हम भी वैसे उस प्रोडक्ट को नहीं देखते हैं जैसे एक कस्टमर ऑब्जर्व करता है, देखता है और उसको लेता है. तो ट्रस्टिंग तो है ही, एक डिफिकल्ट सेट है, बट यू नो व्हेन द होल when you have systems in place and you have returns in place and there is a trust story behind your whole brand, so I mean people are not that hesitant to buy a high value product on the website. It becomes थोड़ा सा मतलब easy हो जाता है. अब जैसे आप ले लो फिर आप return कर सकते हो उसको easily, and there's a team who can help you out with to understanding the product better. So there's always a story for every customer when there is I mean the right kind of product involved. तो ये तो है, ये कहानी तो मतलब बहुत सारी कहानियां ऐसे तो निकल के आएंगी, बट ऐसा कुछ स्टैंड आउट जैसा तो ऐसा नहीं है जैसा शिवा ने सुनाया. हम लोग तो बस चुपचाप करते रहते हैं अपना काम.
Thank you. So the final question of the day for the Saturday evening, where does the future lie? Where do you see handlooms and the online marketplace? Quick insights from each of you.
I think the when you ask about, I mean this is a very staple question which comes at every conversation you have around handloom and so see, I have a very different view than a lot of people when they say that it's all dying and it's all there's no future to it, and you know अब कैसे होगा, वाइवर्स भी नहीं है, ये है नहीं है, तो वो एक अपनी जगह पर है ये सारी बातें. बट मुझे लगता स्टोरी भी है कि जितना अब मतलब आज से 20 इयर्स पहले या 10 इयर्स पहले जितना कंज्यूमर था हैंडलूम प्रोड्यूस करने वाला, हाथ का सामान बनाने वाला, वो कंज्यूमर बहुत मल्टीट्यूड मतलब वो मल्टीपल फोल्ड्स में वो कस्टमर आज बढ़ चुका है. वी हैव much more customer base than we had 10 years back. On the other side of that, we have much less production happening in handmade as we were having 10 years back. So it is the challenge now is to match the production and the demand. So that is if we could solve this riddle, if we could solve this problem, that how production can be matched to the demand, then तब ये इसका कुछ एक समाधान निकलेगा. बट अभी क्या है, ये पूरा पूरा जो हैंडलूम सेक्टर है, ये इस पे एक मैं कहूँगा कि ये स्केल जो नहीं हो पा रहा है ना, इसके पीछे बहुत सारे रीजंस हैं. आई मीन वी कैन डू अ different session around it. I mean, how this can be scaled up and things like that. But ये तो है कि ये फ्यूचर यही है कि आप ये जो गैप है डिमांड का और प्रोडक्शन का, ये इसको किस तरीके से आप दूर करें, क्योंकि डिमांड तो बढ़ती ही जानी है, लोगों के बीच में अवेयरनेस बढ़, नया लोग आ रहे हैं, न्यू मिलेनियल पूरा क्लास है जो ये इस तरह से सस्टेनेबल लाइफस्टाइल अपनाना चाहता है. और ठीक उसी तरफ दूसरी तरफ वीवर है जो बनाना नहीं चाहता है, उसको उतना उसमें वैल्यू नहीं मिल रहा है, उसको प्राइस नहीं मिल रहा है. जो ट्रेडर है, जो मार्केटर है, डिजाइनर है, बीच का जो पूरा सेटअप है, वो पूरा कॉस्ट उसका जो पूरा कर ले रहा है. और जो एंड मेकर है, जो वो उसके लिए वो सिर्फ एक लेबर जॉब बन के रह जा रही है. जैसे वो कोई एक या कोई डेली वेज लेबर है, वो उस लेवल पे उसको उसकी कॉस्ट मिल रही है. और सेम पीस जो है वो एक किसी बड़े स्टोर में जाके, किसी बड़े डिजाइनर सेटअप में जा करके, वो सेम पीस जो 1000-2000 रुपए में भी कॉस्ट नहीं मिल रहा है, वो that is being sold for more than 10,000 or 15,000. I mean, a tenfold price that product is being sold as an art piece, but the credit is not going towards the artisan who is making that product, and they are being paid as a daily wage worker. So till this, till this gap is not figured out in a proper way, and the whole system doesn't move towards changing this whole I mean the whole merchandising and marketing strategies around handicrafts, till this bridge can't be this gap can't be the fulfilled. And जब तक ये नहीं होगा तब तक ये बढ़ता, फिर वो प्रोडक्शन बनाने वाला इंटरेस्टेड ही नहीं है बनाने में, क्योंकि उसको कुछ भी इसमें से नहीं मिल रहा है. और कंज्यूमर बढ़ता जा रहा है, कंज्यूमर, क्योंकि वो जितना उस प्रोडक्ट का समझ बढ़ता जा रहा है सोसाइटी में, जितना हम कॉन्शियस होते जा रहे हैं सारी चीज़ों के प्रति, तो वो उतना डिमांड उसका वो तो बढ़ता ही जा रहा है. तो स्केल करने के लिए फिर मशीन्स इन्वॉल्व करना है, फिर आप पावर लूम चाहिए, फिर similar handloom similar looking stuff you have to make so that they look similar to the handloom to match that demand which is coming. तो ये एक थोड़ा सा ये एक चैलेंजिंग सिचुएशन है. और ये आने मतलब मुझे लगता है ये सवाल कि क्या होगा फ्यूचर में ना, वो ये यहाँ से होके जाता है. दिस यू हैव टू गो थ्रू दिस पाथ. This is the path which will lead to the future.
Pankaja ma'am, best person to answer. What do you think, trade-off? Then we'll move to Siddharth and Siva.
Yes. So, Pradeep, I think the future of handloom is bright. But if I say handloom के बारे में बात करें या handicraft की बात करें, whatever it is, it has sustained or it has retained for so long. It is only because of the community. The community has sustained. And let's talk about Odisha. The patronage that Odisha weavers are able to people. I think 50 to 60% of the handloom is consumed. I don't know the exact data, but it is getting consumed within the state. If you see a auto rickshaw wala or a construction work, strong feel be within that state. I wear Odisha handloom, a bandha shirt or a bandha sari. So it has sustained, and most of the people are also migrating. They're shifting because they are not able to get the value for the work they are doing. कि जितना काम किया जाए उसके लिए, अगर उसके लिए, and if they are continuously living through this financial insecurity, so obviously it will force them to choose some other basically alternative job. And we can only end that by obviously giving them the credit, giving them the honorarium, and giving them the dignified living, rather than making them hand to mouth situation. So I think if we improve that, all those factors, the community, which most of the Dalits, Adivasi, and other backward castes, which basically they are the people who are actually doing the most of the handloom work. If that community basically is able to sustain themselves because of the market, because of the promotion or the education, all the handloom people, all the textile lovers, everybody will be happy. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else from the panel who wants to add it? Question?
Right. Pratik, I'll go here. I think with the post-pandemic situation, our consumers becoming very discerning, very responsible, and very conscious about the choices they make today. So I think that's really helped us and the entire community of the artisans who from India to actually put good quality and good product, to the fore. So with that, I think the future is bright for us. It all depends on the routes and the methods that we each pick up, and the solutions we want to find. Because where there is a will, there is a way, and I think that's the most important thing, to go more sustainable in all our approaches, to think about processes which also help us to mark the way, and to choose, for example, even the differences made by your product's outer packaging and the way this is reaching your consumer, to help them to understand the importance of all of this. And that comes at a certain price, right? It's a tough situation, because you're trying to literally educate your customer and make him understand the reason why a certain price is attached to a certain product, and why it then performs better and it also looks better. So it's a process, and I think sooner or later, where in India we've got value seekers, right, who are looking for discounts more, than the quality of a product. I think this is the struggle that we have as today. And as designers, that's what's important. How do you make them realize the importance of quality, the importance of Indian handloom products over a machine-led product? And of course, there will be situations where we'll have to make challenges and meet them with some kind of new solutions. New young blood will come up with new ideas, I'm sure. And that's where I will be very important for how the young designers find their own way and come up with their own solutions. Thank you, Pratik.
Yeah, just to add a few points. See, we strongly believe the future, especially for artisans, and also in taking these great products, right, and their stories to the market. I think this problem can be solved through entrepreneurship. I think a weaver who's a weaver, and we were in a panel before, and two master weavers who were there on the panel actually broke down while speaking with the Secretary Textiles, because they are having so much stock piled up, and they're not able to sell these products on market, and things have not changed for them, and they've been weaving 300-400 rupees a day, right? This is what has been their life. I think this has to change, right? And what we believe is entrepreneurship, both to our weavers, and also the cooperatives. Can they be more design led? How can they be a little bit more market savvy? How can they effectively take their products to market is something which has to be taught. I think what we have done over the last few decades is, and I think that was also discussed in the previous panel, that we've invested thousands of crores of rupees. It has gone into building somewhere, and sometimes we don't even know where the infrastructure is right now. But I think it's been mostly on hard assets. What we need is to build skills, not just in terms of weaving, but in terms of entrepreneurship. How can weavers who doesn't have to be an MBA graduate, a weaver with limited education, can effectively go to market with his products? And at GoCop, we have such great examples where people with very limited education today are able to, who started as a weaver, now they are actually supporting 20 weavers within their own community, and are able to sell their product very effectively, both online as well as offline. So entrepreneurship is the key, I feel, on the cluster development side. And also entrepreneurship is important to take these great products to markets, not only in India, but globally, right? So if you look at 3,000 craft traditions in this country, there is need of such specialized, I mean, I'm not a designer myself, but brands and designers, right, who can take these products to national and global markets. Just in muslin, right, I think there is again a 1,000 crore market, according to me, right? I mean, there's such a beautiful craft. Each craft has that kind of potential. Just Banarsi, I believe right now they're saying it's 2,000 crores. Banarsi cluster output is 2,000 crores. So I think that with a lot of design graduates coming out of this country, I think there's also need for entrepreneurs who can take the designers, entrepreneurs who can take these crafts forward, be very specialized, very focused, and take them to market. And last thing is, I feel the future is co-creation, right? So, I mean, again, what is stopping us? We have been doing it traditionally, right? Designers sit with artisans and do work, but I think this has so much more potential, right? So we had one designer who used to design for Michelle Obama from US, and this designer used to buy very exclusive fabrics from very specific fabrics from our platform. Used to always tell that, I wish I can come to India and sit with the weavers, but I don't have so much time, but I wish I can do that. Similarly, one other designer from Indian origin in New York that we regularly work with now wants to do something jointly, like develop a label jointly with some of the artisan groups that we are working with. So I think, co-creation is a very important aspect which can be more equitable, not only to the designer, but also to the artisan making these products. And I believe that could be a future has.
Of course, thank you very much. Thank you very much. So, lovely insight. Now, the forum for the audience questions. If there are any, you can just type it in the comment section or probably unmute yourself and ask the question to any specific member of the panel, or else we call it a day. There's a question from Ms. Geeta who says, many a times we work cannot supply big numbers. How do we handle this? Anybody wants to take up? We'll take up 2 questions and then we close for the day. I know it's been a long day for everyone. So
I mean, the weavers cannot supply big numbers in short period of time. That is the reality. I mean, there's no question around it. Either you do not get a handloom weaver or you get some more time. There's no, there is only this option. If you want to get handloom, I mean, it will take time. It's a slow production process. You want to streamline and you need to have time, or you just don't go for handloom. You find there are other processes and, where you can get similar looking stuff. So, but handloom will take time. It has to take time.
A weaver can also set his own timeline. Like if somebody gives them order of 100 sarees and they're asking them say, to produce in 3 months, so they can always say that to a buyer, suppose Fab India, that I need 6 months so that I can collaborate with other weavers and, keep it something like COVID happens or whatever. And then I will be able to manage that by particular time. So a weaver also, I think we have to also make our weavers very deadlines and create their own basically timeline.
Also, at times, the quality issue we face. So how do we handle that? I mean, yeah, I do understand that, handloom is not perfect. We understand that, but at times, which is defective also is sent out, right? I mean, the customer does not understand that part, right?
I think the irregularities of anything which is handmade, we have to accept that anything what you create by hand, like a woven fabric, it will have irregularities. If I say raw silk, and even if it is silk, and even if I'm producing a sari second time or third time, the color will be never the same because a person is manually doing the same. Suppose you're cooking, you will never have the same taste or the same flavor next time you're cooking. So something which you cannot, control, because everything is done by a human. So things cannot be basically controlled. So irregularities has to be taken. But yes, about the defects, you can always make aware the weaver, okay, certain things are not acceptable, so try not to, try to avoid this. So that's what I can say in this about this question. I hope I answered you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I was not. Yeah, I was
Thank
not
you very
referring
much.
to
Last question of the
irregularity.
day, I
Thank you.
take it from Elora. Yeah, I take it from Elora Sinha. I think the question previous to that, Nandini, is not relevant to this panel. So handlooms are expensive compared to powerloom products, and people are not willing to acquire something that is expensive in this pandemic. How do we handle that? With this, we close. Yeah. So anybody from the panel who wants to answer it?
Yeah, I think so. As I said, yeah, I think the process itself is time consuming, and if you want to really give appropriate, if you have to create the right market to create a sustainable life, right? If you don't want the weaver to make 150, 200 rupees a day, I think the product itself will have to become more expensive as we go forward. But having said that, I think today also, as I said earlier, right, there are so many good cooperatives in this country who are still making good products. And it is possible that, you find good handloom products which are of good quality at reasonable price. I wouldn't say cheap, but at reasonable or fair prices. And I think that's a big market, right? I mean, today, if we are moving away from, mainstream and we want handloom to be more premium and luxury, and this is the debate we have sometimes internally and also in forums like this, handloom should only be luxury and only be premium. I think then we are losing out on a big, the dividend that we have in this country, right? The growing middle class, right? So I think somehow we have to make sure also that, the product is such that it's not unaffordable, right, for a large part of the population. So that's the challenge. But I do, there are possibilities of good handloom products available at reasonable prices even today. And I think, yeah, it can be explored further.
Yeah, hope that answers your question. I see a raised hand there. Quickly take up that and then we'll close. Yeah.
Hi. Good evening, everyone. Hi, this is Shubhanshu. My question is to Siddharth, sir. So just wanted to ask that with Tavi, Tavi, as we say, it's a brand which is working with block printing and the kind of stuff we're doing, vegetable dyes and all that. And Myntra being a platform to be a fast fashion website wherein you get a lot of changing clothes and this and that. What is a bigger challenge for you as a brand? Because I've seen the clothes and I love them. What is the challenge to find the right public? Because the people who enter Myntra want like cheap look, cheap clothes which look, expensive and all that. Is the product the challenge or finding the right market or the right place and the right image in the public's eye? What is the more challenging part?
Right. Thank you for that question. And thank you for the praises for the brand. To be honest, when we started the brand, we got such a pushback internally itself to even start a brand that was made on handloom aesthetics and wanted to, herald crafts because it was against fast fashion. And the reasons that we stuck to our call was to actually give back to, the artisan community, to give back to our contemporaries, and to also be able to form a bridge between the younger generation today and crafts, which somehow feel that, it's something that they will not be able to, relate to. And that's why Tavi today has that younger aesthetic where we've kind of, been able to bring in clothing that is a little affordable. And yes, the challenge is to create that product, Subhanshu, at the same time, to that are, relatable to this consumer. We know that they are not coming to us to, and on a platform where there's an H&M, there are other companies which are really taking away from the Indian segments. We are trying really hard to bring back that consumer towards, the craft sector by creating points of. The bigger challenge for us is to make sure that our ideals are not hampered with. It's been really difficult to tie up with the right vendors who do not cheat the artisan, like Pankaja was mentioning earlier, who keep in mind that the artisan community is first kept absolutely happy with the kind of pricings, with the kind of work that we do with them. We're not tampering too much in terms of the craft, and we're just trying to make sure that we somehow bring it back to the consumer, give it as holistically possible back to the consumer. So the challenge is also communicating all of this, and we have a product display page that literally talks about the origin of this craft. We've tried to write as much as we can about the the craft, where it comes from, what it really talks about. And yes, there are issues like other challenges, such as why is this kind of bleeding, why is an indigo, why is the indigo color bleeding from this product, wherein we kind of have to educate the customer. These are small challenges which come with each craft, and we have to communicate is really well. So we've got all of this written jargon that we also send with each product, so that they understand that these are the kind of problems that we'll be facing. So trying really hard to come into a fast fashion sector and still create slow fashion, something that will stay with you for long. That is the challenge. We've been trying with Tavi to give separates, so can be easily paired with your commercial pair of jeans that you're anyways going to pick up, right? But somewhere deep down inside, a part of India comes into your wardrobe. And I think that's the major challenge we've had. And I mean, it's really nice to hear from you that, you kind of like and have picked up the brand. So somewhere deep down inside, that's the, you're the right target that we've been, hoping to hear these good words from. So thank you for that. I hope I've been able to answer you.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Subhanshu.
Thank you so much. So with this particular question, we do end today's panel. As we all know, the right time is very much important. So we are on time. Thank you very much for such wonderful insights and lovely takeaways for this evening. I have to thank all the speakers, the audiences for making this talk a very fruitful one.